About 1 year ago, for the first time ever, I unboxed the Switch.
So what? And I'm fried, so what? And I'm hot, so what? And I'm rich, so what?
I was convinced that the Switch 2 would be Nintendo's biggest success ever. And for almost 8 months, I thought I was wrong. This is why I was so excited about the Switch 2. When it was announced, it had DLSS, 4K, 1080p, 120 hertz handheld. I knew every game wasn't gonna run on that specific specification, but the fact that it could do it was amazing. Had magnetic Joy-Con, native mouse controls built right into the system, ready to use at any time. Most importantly, the hardware could finally run third-party AAA titles and be an enjoyable experience. That was when it was announced. Then the launch happened. It was very exciting. And for a while, the momentum just stopped completely. Don't get me wrong, the launch lineup was strong on paper. We had Mario Kart World, which was great. We had Donkey Kong Bonanza, probably one of my favorite games that came out last year. And that was in the first 2 months of the system's life cycle. But after that, the release calendar went quiet for weeks and months. There'd be an occasional Nintendo Direct, and every time it came up, I'd be excited, or at least hopeful, that they would show something to make me feel like the Switch 2 was a worthwhile purchase. But after each and every single Nintendo Direct, it was clear the Switch 2 doesn't have a power problem, it has a library problem. And the library problem wasn't that games weren't coming, it was exactly what was coming. Things like Cyberpunk 2077, Street Fighter 6, Elden Ring Tarnished Edition, which is still yet to come out, Star Wars Outlaws, Borderlands 4, which is also still yet to come out. Then we got Hitman, World of Assassination, just to name a few AAA titles that were coming out for the Switch 2, right? These are all great games. The problem is that these games have existed for many years, and the chances that I have played them, the chances that you have played them, you know, those are some pretty big chances that we've already experienced that game. To double dip on a game that we've already played like Cyberpunk, I just did not see for it to be worth it, especially at the launch price of it being around 70 bucks. I've already played Cyberpunk on the PS5. I played it on the PC. For me to buy it on the Switch 2, that would be a triple dip. Same thing with Elden Ring. I've already played it on my PS5. I've already played it on PC. I wouldn't need to buy it again on the Switch 2. And I'm sure a lot of people have been in that situation with the games coming out. Like, it's really exciting to see a full native port of such big games coming to a handheld form factor. But the fact is you just can't be excited about it because you've already played these games years ago. The Switch 2 wasn't only giving you reasons not to buy those games, but also reasons not to buy the console itself. When half of the launch title is games that are 3 years old, it's really hard to justify spending almost $500 on that console. But it did have a big misconception with the public of how games are just gonna be $20 more expensive on Switch 2 compared to other platforms. That just simply isn't true, and you could go on the eShop today to verify that. But yeah, that hurt a lot of its sales, and just like everyday people that I've talked to that really aren't into, like, you know, the Nintendo news, their first impressions of the device, the first thing that they say is like, aren't the games on there like 80 bucks? That's pretty much the first and most known thing about the console early in its life cycle, unfortunately. Then fall came around, Kirby Air Riders came out. That game was pretty exciting to me, surprisingly. I was kind of so-so on it, but you know, at that point in time, I was really looking for something to enjoy on the Switch 2, because at that point in time, it was really hard for me to, you know, pick up something to play. All there really was for me was just like, you know, a couple Zelda remasters, Mario Kart World, but you can only play so much of that. So at this point, searching for a game, Kirby Air Riders hits. I like it a lot, and I still pick it up and play it here and there, but for the most part, my Switch 2 still isn't used. And then at that point, that's where like it starts creeping up on me, like, damn, was I wrong? Like, my initial vision for this console was that, you know, the Switch 1 was so successful, despite, you know, it coming out at such a late time in that console's generation, it being underpowered right out of the gate and not receiving any sort of power updates for around 7 years. despite all that, and also not having very much AAA support, there's been a few miracle ports that have made it to the Switch 1's library, but aside from that, AAA support was pretty much non-existent. And despite all of that, the Switch 1 was still one of the most best-selling consoles of all time, period. Beating out, I think, even the PlayStation 2, or coming very close to it. In all of gaming history, the Switch 1, the underpowered console, was the best-selling console ever. So the successor to that, right? If you have such a huge user base on the Switch 1, and the Switch 2 is going to improve on everything that the Switch 1 lacked, which was mainly power and AAA developer support. You would think that when Nintendo launched this, the AAA support would be almost overwhelming. You would have thought that we'd be receiving so many developers just ready to support this user base of millions, hundreds of millions of users that love using their Switch 2, right? That was my thesis. That was my idea of, the success of what the Switch 2 would be. But when it released, it became very clear that Nintendo actually purposely gimped the Switch 2. For some reason, developers that did want to support it could not support it because of Nintendo just being weird and not giving them developer kits. So for a very, very long time, the developer support was not there when it should have been. It should have been there for months. We should have been getting a healthy stream of games for a very long time, but it just was not happening. So at that point, I had already owned this device for 8 months, and I feel like it should not have came out at the time that it did. I was still waiting for the Switch 2 life cycle to start, and I was really doubting myself that I made a good purchase. Like, if you've been around this channel for a while, I was really hyped for the Switch 2. I was backing it up with just my ideas. I was like saying like, hey, like I said, lots of people are going to use this thing. It's going to be a success. We're going to get good third-party support, but it just was not there. All the pieces of the puzzle were not there except that one. And then fast forward, we're in 2026, March. Poptopia just dropped, right? Boom. That's when everybody's opinion of the Switch 2 actually started to shift.
Guys, I got the goods! And they had the physical game.
Best Buy, I fully blacked out at the computer section, but I locked in. I followed the mission. Nintendo Switch 2 and
People started making sure that they went out and bought a Switch 2 specifically for this game. But then it doesn't even stop there. Capcom, the goats of ports, like they support every device that shouldn't even be able to game. Like the iPhone 15, when this came out, the first games supported on this that were AAA were Capcom games. They were Resident Evil 4, 7, and 8. So Capcom is really good at making ports for games. And with the Switch 2, they followed up with their reputation. We got native Resident Evil 7, 8, and 9 ports on the Switch 2, which are great. You could play Resident Evil 9 day one and have a good experience. I think it had a decent frame rate. I think it was somewhere between 45 and 60, which is actually surprising. I would have thought it would have been 30, just off the way that the Switch 2 usually handles things. Or just the Switch 1 in general. I'm just used to playing handheld games at 30 FPS, but they actually made sure that this ran between somewhere between 45 and 60 FPS, which is just nothing short of amazing. But they didn't even stop there. Also, Pragmata, a lot of y'all are playing that game. Great game, runs at 60 FPS on the Switch 2 day one release as well. I mean, it really feels like we're catching some momentum here, because in just a span of a month or two, we got all the Resident Evils, Pragmata, and Poptopia just back to back to back. And I'm really appreciative of Capcom just showing what the potential and the ceiling is with the Switch 2, because that will definitely inspire more developers to make ports. We also got, the Private Investigator mouse game. that also came out day one on the Switch too. Something I did not expect. I expected that to stay on the Steam Indie store or whatever, but it's there on the Switch too. You could play that. I'm actually gonna pull up my Switch and see what else is in store, because they've been going hard. We got Tamagotchi Life, Living the Dream. I've been seeing lots of memes and videos about this game. A lot of people having fun with it. We have Pokemon Champions. Looks like a little Pokemon battle arena game, which is super cool. But we also got a reveal trailer of Pokemon Wind and Waves, which looks like the next big step in the next generation of the Pokemon Legends, line. The Pokemon Legends lines took Pokemon in a completely new direction, and Pokemon Wind and Waves looks like that's like just like the next big step. And that's also going to be coming out on the Switch too. And later on this year, we're also going to be getting, finally, the Elden Ring Tarnished Edition, as well as the Duskbloods, the newest FromSoft game, which looks like a spiritual successor to Bloodborne, which is very exciting. So there's a lot to look forward to on this console now. Let's see what else we got. Oh, we just randomly got a Switch 2 edition of Overwatch. So now you could play Overwatch on your Switch 2 at around 60 FPS. Marvel Rivals is also coming to Switch 2 as well. The developers have officially confirmed that. So you can play your favorite hero shooters on here now. I wouldn't say competitively, but casually, if you just want to get your fix in, or if you just enjoy the game and you like to have fun on it and just play it for fun, you could take that with you. You no longer have to be on your PlayStation or your PC or your Xbox just to play these games. And I'm just saying that just to show you, like, the future is starting to look bright. And like at the end of the day, like what I thought would happen with the Switch 2 is actually just happening. It just didn't happen when I thought it would happen. I was just a little early, but now all the pieces are coming together, and I think within the next year or two, the lineup on this console and just the amount of games that you're going to be able to play is going to be exponentially larger than what we have today. And it's going to be a no-brainer to get this over a Steam Deck or other consoles. Everybody has their preference, but it's no longer just Nintendo games on this thing. I think eventually we're going to get a Call of Duty port on here. It's been rumored for years. I don't know if they're still doing that. I know Activision and Xbox said that they wanted to work with Nintendo for a while, so we're just seeing what happens with that. Oh, also Warframe 60 FPS Switch 2 update as well, which is great. And as of today, as of actually the end of last year, the Switch 2 has sold 17 million consoles globally. And that is before the Poptopia craze. So imagine, like, there's probably millions of more Switch 2 consoles out there. So the player base is just expanding greater and greater every day. And developers and investors are going to see that, and they're going to be like, yo, we need to make sure that our game is on the Switch 2 as well. Oh, Assassin's Creed Shadow port. Yeah, that one was actually a real surprise. It didn't look the best when it came out, but it looks better now. So yeah, that's also another big port. But yeah, developers are going to be like, look, there's all these players on the Switch 2. A lot of people may only even have the Switch 2 as their only console. So they're going to make sure that their games get a nice solid port on the Switch 2, and they're going to make sure it runs well. That just benefits us. Oh, I just keep remembering more games. So I'm sorry, but Fallout 4 also got another native port onto the console as well. So you get the full Fallout experience, like a real game that you could sink your teeth into. You get that on the Switch 2 as well. I personally never played Fallout 4. I just never felt like I had the time to, but if it ever goes on sale on here, I definitely might check it out, because playing in a handheld form factor is just an advantage in story games that a lot of people don't really talk about. It makes it a lot more easier to actually, chip away at a big game like that. So definitely might pick that up. Just some more talk on, the future of the console. It looks like maybe a Star Fox game, Pikmin 4, a new Nintendo Switch Sports, or maybe an expansion on the previous one. Hollow Knight Silksong expansion pack, if that ever comes out within a reasonable time. We're also getting a rumored Ocarina of Time remake. So that's really exciting. I don't know if it's gonna be like a full, like complete graphics overhaul, if they're just gonna, do what they did with Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 and kind of just make it look the same, but a little bit smoother. Also, a new 3D Mario is targeted for around 2027, so a successor to Mario Odyssey. So yeah, if even half of those games land, those are gonna be absolute bangers. I'm finally starting to feel like the Switch 2 is, maturing into a good platform with good titles. I no longer feel bad investing into this ecosystem the same way that I did before. Before I felt like, if I'm buying a game on this platform, I'm getting a watered down experience, but that is no longer the case, especially since Nintendo also just shadow dropped a performance update. It's called Game Boost, where they basically let you use the docked performance on any games that are still on the Switch 1 edition. So a lot of those times, the docked performance will be 1080p, 60 FPS at least, and you're able to attain that in handheld mode on the Switch 2 now. So you get your docked performance in handheld mode. It already makes games like Smash Bros look better, Hades looks better, all types of games that were just, either unsupported or they're just taking too long to come out with a Switch 2 port. They basically just flipped the switch and said, you know what, if it could run at a better frame rate and a better resolution, you can do that now. You don't have to wait for the developers to support it anymore. So that's amazing. So yeah, basically, I was right about the hardware and I was wrong about the timeline. And I'm so happy that the Switch 2, in my eyes, is finally worth it. And it's only going to get better with time. Let me know in the comments, when did the Switch 2 click for you? Did you love it day one, or did it take a little bit of time for it to finally start growing onto you? Would love to hear what you guys have to think in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video. Remember to subscribe, it really helps out the channel. If you want to, leave a hype too. I think those help out the channel as well. I'll catch you on the next one, and I appreciate y'all for watching, so I'll see y'all later.